It's
Okay, I think we're
live.
live. We're live. Hey everyone, Vanessa and Velas here with the Blooped podcast. Normally, typically, we're talking about folks who've left high control systems to create a life of their own and what that process is in leaving them. Um, that can extend to politics, religion, relationships. Today, we're going to be continuing our conversation on ending child marriage because that is a weirdo cult of its own, folks who want to marry kids. Um, and so, obviously, you guys have heard Velas's story about her own child marriage experience. And you've also heard from Brigitte before and her contribution to ending child marriage. They are both advocates of ending child marriage. And so today we just wanted to have Brigitte come back on and talk to us about her advocacy work and what that entails. So Velas and I are just going to give her a bunch of questions. We're going to see where this goes. But one of the things we do, we'll just say it up front. One of the things we want you guys to take away from today is if you decide you want to focus some of your energy and time on some kind of advocacy work, or you're passionate about ending child marriage also, we'll give you a way to connect, obviously, with Velas. She's with us every single week, and also with Brigitte. We all grew up in the Hare Krishna movement. Velas and Brigitte have known each other way longer than I've known either one of them. So they have their own dialogue and they know their way around this advocacy space and again in regards to childhood marriage. So I'm going to be just kind of here asking questions. I'm going to give the floor to Velas. We'll go from there.
Yes. So I was inspired to join the End Child Marriage Coalition by Brigitte a few years ago, and her, it was just an initial conversation, like, hey, you could do this too, because I was really involved in hearing from you while you were working on the Virginia bill, and that really inspired me, and that is the reason why I jumped on to lend my voice also. And most recently, we have, if you don't mind if I jump ahead, that most recently we just passed the Oklahoma, closed that loop. Well, there wasn't a loophole. There was no minimum age at the time, right? There has never been a minimum age in Oklahoma.
Well, via loopholes, but it essentially that those loopholes created zero minimum age. Yeah.
Wow.
So that just passed, and I wanted to, but in a way, mostly honor your process by just letting you voice it to us. But let's backtrack and talk about how you got into this advocacy work. What connected you with, what made you want to do this?
Well, honestly, it all started in 2004, I think it was. My brain's a bit like Swiss cheese, so I think it was 2024, when Virginia had a bill to remove the loopholes and make marriage age 18 without exception. Now, we go back a little bit further. I actually, even though I'd been in a child marriage, I was married off as a child, as you were, Vilas, and it wasn't strange to us in like not a foreign thing because we experienced it, and so many of our cohorts did. It was like part of life, but I don't know how everyone else has processed this, but to me it was sort of like, yeah, it's this thing I experienced is weird. Nobody else is like, I even had images of, okay, that happens maybe in other countries, and as being a third culture kid, it's like why it happened, and maybe it happens. I don't know. I think that my understanding of it was probably about on par with what most of the population in the US would be, even though I lived it. So it wasn't until I read a social media post, was Twitter at the time, that Heather Barr, a journalist, had posted saying Delaware officially became the first state to ban child marriage, making marriage age 18 minimum 18, no exceptions. And I read that social media, I read that post, and it just hit me. Like, I just started crying. Like, I could just start crying now. I just started crying. Like, it hit me. Like, I mean, this wasn't that long ago. I'm like, this is
2018.
a thing. This is a thing. Like, and I read it.
So up until that point, you didn't feel like there was anything strange about it. It was only then where you thought, wait a minute.
Well, I knew that. I mean, my whole life is strange. I mean, it's not something I would generally talk to anyone about because it's strange in so many aspects, from growing up in a cult, from not being allowed to go to school, from where I live, to jobs I've done, to having just the whole life, and then being married off. None of it is normal. So I was just used to having kind of a normal life, and it also kind of being to get on. I think we've talked about before, sort of the um growing up in a atmosphere of, I don't know if you want to call it secrecy, or just things you don't talk about. And it was just like an accepted, when you've lived something and it's yours, it's not, you may know it's weird, but you get on with things, and it's like you just don't expect the rest of the world to understand it. Things happen, and I don't know, it wasn't on my radar as a problem in the world, in at
Of
least not
course.
in America. I would read stories in India every now and then, and I get really upset about it, because growing up in a Hindu based culture, that the cult, that was, I could relate to that, and that would upset me, but I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't have a full grasp of it. And then when I read that in 2018, um it just really hit me. Like, I mean, it was profound. And I sent a message to the woman who made the post, and she sent me, like, I'm so grateful for this. I was married as a child in Texas, and I, like, just kind of like word vomited some message to this woman. I was just like, I don't know, it was all kinds of emotions. And she sent me a lovely message back. And she told me about Unchained at Last, which is an advocacy group, who, there were other advocacy groups involved as well, and survivors, and so many people, but I think they may have been the ones who sort of championed that bill. And that organization has sort of, well, they've done a lot of work with that. So she put me in contact with them. So I reached out to Unchained at Last, and I'm reading their website, and like, oh my gosh, there's like a whole lot of people here. It isn't just me. And there's a group that advocates for people that have been through this. And I mean, I went through a whole mental sort of, like, my mind was blown, and just all the emotions, all the everything. And I contacted them, and like, you're not alone, and would you be interested in telling your story to further, to let people know. And I mean, I hadn't just I hadn't told that story before, and it was a little. I mean, I told it in the course of talking to people, eventually getting like bits of my life, but not like gone out and told somebody for the sake of making people aware of it. And so they asked me. So somebody got in touch with me, to a journalist, and I gave him my story, and I was wholly unprepared. It was a bit nerve wracking, and I hope not too many people read that, because I was still very clueless about what was causing the problem. So I don't think I was able to speak such an educated way about it, but I could definitely share my experience. So that was my first encounter with advocacy, if you will. I got on the mailing list, and then I, became aware of it, and I think I may have spoken to a couple of other people, like journalists, to do small stories or something, and otherwise I just kind of watched it, and then I would periodically look at it, different things. And then my youngest daughter, Abby, she was going to Virginia Tech, and we had talked about it, and she's kind of amazing. So she took an interest in it, and she started a group, Students Against Child Marriage at Virginia Tech, a club, there. And she really inspired me even more. And I looked, you started reading more, and then I found a couple of other groups. There's Tahrir Justice Center. I never really didn't know a whole lot about them, but I got on their like mailing list or whatever. And it was something we talked about. Vilas and I even went on. Abby had she went live on her social media, or I can't remember what it was, to
It
talk
was
about
with
our
the
experiences.
program, and it was for Virginia Tech, and she invited us as guests to tell our stories.
Oh, wow.
And we did. And Abby ended up, as part of her degree, she did an internship. She actually did an internship with Unchained at Last. And next thing, she's contacting legislative aides and like working on like advocacy stuff. And so I was kind of learning from her, and she was, I don't know how I don't know if I'm explaining that really well, but that was kind of the beginnings of it. But I didn't really take it any further. I don't know as I really knew what other power I had or what I could do or where I would fit into this. I was also very busy with caregiving with parent and like a lot of stuff going on. So sorry, I'm going on and on. But so one day I'm sitting here, and it's in like January 2024, and one of the email newsletters, or I get an email from Tahrir Justice Center. It was a mail to like everybody on their list, a call to action that there's a bill to end child marriage in Virginia. It's waiting to go to committee, but it's about to die in committee, or had gone missing, or something had gone wrong. And it was basically like, there's this bill, it's about to be no more, and a call to action, fill out this thing, and contact your legislator. And I just freaked out. I was like, there's a bill in Virginia to end child marriage. I am 30 minutes from downtown Richmond. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I typed back like, I'm in Virginia. I survived child marriage. What can I do? What can I do? And I got a message back, and the woman that wrote me back, she says, "Oh, you just are they had somebody in Richmond that day, I guess, trying to speak on it, or who did, or I can't remember what, but there were people working on this bill already. It had been, I think they may have been part of getting it, the bill created. And anyway, I heard, well, it was going to die in committee, and that, well, I could send an email, like their form letter or whatever, to legislators. And anyway, something in me just kind of rose up, and I'm like, oh heck no. I'm like, this is not going to die.
Not in my backyard.
Wow.
I mean, I put clothes on and came, I think I was probably in some kind of funk, I don't know, and got out of here, and I drove straight to the General Assembly building. And I grabbed a booklet that here's the legislators. I'm looking at their pictures and trying to identify them as they're come. Okay, there's that committee room. They're having this meeting here. They're doing this. Okay, and matching pictures, and that's this person, and just kind of like, and literally like speaking to people as they were in elevators, coming out of elevators, and and calling people. Then I came home, and I had the list of all the legislators, and I'm like, well, they're going to hear, every single one of them's going to hear from me. So I can't remember if this was first a committee um or the House. I don't remember. It had already gone through one process by that point. And I think we were on to the next.
So
But
it
anyway,
wasn't dead that day. That was the headline that was suggesting that was
it
the pattern.
well, it was about to be. It hadn't been heard. It was like
Okay.
not being, and I don't know what happened. It got, and I don't remember if it was after I started my emailing I, or what, but they found it and it passed out of the committee. And then the next step was for it to go to the Senate. And no, it was a Senate, it was a committee. Sorry, I have this all mixed up.
That's
It
okay.
was
We're
because
tracking.
there's like committee, then this, and then so it got voted on there, and then it had another committee. I was still new to this too, so it was like a big blur, and I didn't understand how all this worked. Committees, like it goes where, who does what, huh? I
So let me
mean,
ask you a question. Had you done any political advocacy work before that day driving into Richmond? You
no,
just
no, never, never. And so then pretty much I came home and I got every single legislator's email and phone number, and I phoned every one of them. I never spoke. I think maybe one I spoke to an actual legislator. Otherwise, it was a legislator of aides, and then emailed every single one of them, and basically told them my story and asked them to, you know, pass this bill. And then when I found out that this must have been a committee hearing for the Senate, that they were going to have a hearing. People were able to give public testimony. So not every state does that, but Virginia, most of them do allow for testimony. And so it could be done virtually, in person, written. Generally, it varies by state, but some people testified virtually, some written, and then they had in-person testimony.
let me ask you,
So,
who were the people that were testifying at this point?
okay. So before I got there, I don't know who did, but Tahre worked on this. So it was Casey Swagman. There was from Tahre Justice Center. There was there were several of us that were going to testify in person, but we were given the time was taken, and I think it was going to originally be 3 minutes. It
Okay.
was narrowed down to 1 minute for
And
each
these were
person.
people who had experienced childhood marriage like you had, that they were sort of
No,
cutting.
the testimony was open to constituents, to advocacy group. I don't want to say the wrong, think if it was to anyone, but you could testify for or against.
Okay.
Somebody came in and testified against, took 3 minutes, and then we were all relegated. The ones who were voting wanted to support the bill were given 1 minute. There were survivors. There were other survivors
Okay.
who testified. They did by virtual, but did testify, and there were people who submitted written. Um, I think Abby did a virtual. Did she have COVID? I think my
Oh,
daughter did a virtual or written, but multiple people could.
so
So there
can we
was,
go ahead?
yeah. No, no, no. Go ahead.
Can we backtrack for a minute and can you explain to us so who gets to sponsor a bill? Like who needs to sponsor a bill? Can it be anybody in the government or specific people or only specific committees?
Okay, so the person to sponsor a bill has to be a bill has to get introduced into one side. So your legislature. So Virginia is the House of Delegates. It's made up. So you have the Senate and the House. Oklahoma, you have the Senate, House of Representatives. Some places might call it the Senate and the Assembly, or have various words, but there's terms. But there's generally two houses. You have the Senate and say a House or an Assembly. So you will have representatives or in the House of Representatives, or you have a delegate in the House of Delegates. It varies again by state. Um, and then you have in the Senate side, you'll have a senator. So you need to have one of those. It can be a representative or a delegate or assembly member, depending on the terms they use, or a senator. Um, and they're the ones who will introduce a bill. So, and they make the introduction to whatever. like if they're a senator, it'll be in the Senate. If they're on the House side, it will be a representative or somebody on that side. So they introduce it there. That would be once it's introduced. So there's a process to get it to get the bill created. It starts with an idea, convincing this person to sponsor or author, whatever terminology you want to use, basically to write the bill, which involves sometimes advocacy groups can help with it. Usually they have a legal team because it's got to have language. It's got to be written in a way that, uh, is, what's the word? Aligns with it's constitutionally, like that it's correct and legally done. So there's a legal team there to make sure that the language is good. And once it's like, this is a good bill, then it can be introduced. It's given a number, a title, like it be HB would be House bill, or if you see SB is from the Senate side, and it'll be introduced, and that would be called the first reading. And then um, it will at that point go be assigned to a committee. Sometimes there's a subcommittee, but generally that's so the committee will look of so many people will look at it, discuss it, and decide whether they like it, whether they want to vote for it. Like they discuss it, and if it gets voted out of committee, then it goes on to the next one. It might start in a subcommittee, go to the full committee, and then to the next one. But once it comes out of committee, then it goes to whatever chamber it was introduced in. So, say like Senate Bill 504 in Oklahoma was introduced to Senate. There were the committees there, passed through there. Then it went to the full Senate for a vote. It passed the Senate. Once it does that, we start the process all over again on the other side. So now it has to go to the House committees. So once it passes through and the House, those committees, then it goes to the full floor for a full vote. Once it comes out of there and it's considered to have passed, then the next step would be
Goes to the
either the
governor.
governor's signature or veto, or it can pass without a signature. Each state, federal has a different amount of days, whatever, but there's generally a point where it can pass without, a lot of times they'll let something pass but not sign it. And
So can
that's
you
kind of the
do you,
nutshell.
do
Yeah.
you know? So I saw that in Oklahoma, the governor allowed it to pass without signature. What does that mean?
Well, my understanding of it is, now I'm not a legal expert by any means, but my understanding, so Oklahoma, once a bill passes, is passed both houses, it's considered to, it shall pass, it has passed. The governor has 5 days to take action. That's Oklahoma. It varies by state. It can be different. In that case, it was 5 days, 5 business days to take action. So during that time frame, the governor can sign it or veto it or allow that time to pass without taking action. And by default, if the governor doesn't take any action and the time expires, it's allowed to pass. That means it's passed.
Interesting.
And
What does that say? It almost makes me wonder, like the governor knew this needed to go and pass, but also didn't want to be responsible for it because he would lose funding. Which to
that's
me just
quite
sounds like
often.
big fat chicken shit. You're just
He
like,
didn't want to put his name on it.
he didn't want to put his name on it. I have a question for you. Going back to the beginning of this bill in Virginia, was there a catalyst that brought this to the attention of someone? Like, was there a particular catalyst? Was there a marriage that someone, I don't know, like, why did this even get started in Virginia?
Well, that's
Well,
an excellent question. That's
It
an
started
excellent
in
question.
Delaware.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't
so it
know
started
specific.
coming down.
Yeah, I can't say specifically what made this delegate author this or sponsor this bill. I know that it's been it's kind of started a trend, and so I don't know whether it was Tahri approached her or some. I can't answer that for sure. I don't actually know, because when I came into it, it was in existence, and it was my first experience. And I still kind of look back and like, oh.
Yeah, I would
Um,
imagine. Yeah, I just wondered if there was something in particular. But Velas, you're saying that Delaware was the first state to introduce these child marriage laws?
Yes. So what happened, it just, caveat in the middle of this, after Virginia, and I watched her through the Virginia process, and she's like, yeah, do this. And I always feel like uh, like I'm not qualified. But she's like, no, you can do this. And so I was like, all right, I'm in. And so I joined the coalition to end child marriage in the United States. And up next was DC. And so what we did in DC, Brigitte came up from Virginia. We went to DC, and with Unchained at Last, the AHA Foundation, Zonta, the Rape Crisis Center, the Person Center, a whole bunch of DC organizations, a whole bunch of supporters of this bill. Basically, we got appointments with each one of the 13 council members in DC, and we went as a group. There were like 20 or 30 of us, maybe 40 of us, that would just like go into their offices and each give our statements of why this is critical, and would you support, or would you co-sponsor, or would you please vote this into law. And the pitch basically was, listen, we've started in Delaware, we're coming down the East Coast here, and the way that the DC law allowed marriage was, so just as a for instance, you have to be a resident of Maryland to get married in Maryland. It's not a destination wedding kind of thing. But in DC, it's a destination wedding. So anyone can go there from anywhere and get married. And so the pitch was, listen, we're ending child marriage. Every state around you has ended child marriage, because DC is in the middle of me, Maryland, Virginia, her, and then you go Delaware. It's surrounded by all of these states that have already abolished child marriage. So people are coming here as a destination wedding spot and getting married as children. You need to end it. You need to close that loophole. And they immediately jumped that. It was alarming and somewhat disconcerting to me, because I'm like, how do you not know this? Why do lawmakers not know the laws? So I get it. It's a lot. But still, if I don't know the speed limit on the road, I'm going to get a ticket. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you're the lawmakers, shouldn't you know the law? All of them were like gobsmacked that, what? There's child marriage and it's legal in our jurisdiction? Yes, please fix it. And they did.
And so DC was the place where it was kind of like the Sweden of child marriage, meaning like, or whatever, was it Switzerland? Sorry. But allowing this kind of a neutral zone. Anybody, anytime could get married.
Meaning if from another destination, they could come there, or if they live there. But there are several these other organizations also had their arguments as to how bad that is, like children, internationally, how bad that is, and how this destination was a really bad, this loophole has to be closed immediately. So just child trafficking, and just how easy it is to harm children with this.
So did DC have a high rate then of child marriage in particular?
The issue that I think, and I can't answer that honestly if research was done, but I don't think so. But it was too short a time to research, and also the information available they're not tracking certain things, like where did that person come from? Like, right. They might have tracked the age was this, the date of marriage was this, the parent signed or whatever, But I don't know that they're like, where did you travel from? Did you get your bride from Russia? Like, they're
Oh,
not asking,
oh
they're
God.
not asking that type of question.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to know that, but the time was too soon from the first Delaware ending child marriage to it coming. And then I think we may be able to find that out. Unchained at Last has done a lot of research on the statistics of child marriage and who, what, where, how, and the various excuses, the vomitocious excuses that people have.
Remember,
But
we heard one excuse from one of the people voting, or by the way, Velas testified in DC. So,
so
um,
did you.
huh?
I testified right after you.
Yes. But one of the people who was testifying against the bill, correct me if I'm wrong, their reasoning was that by eliminating child marriage, we would be eliminating an avenue of escape for young people escaping a bad home life.
Interesting, because
Yeah.
that was the question I had asked you in our previous session is what now, what education will there be for people who are trying to escape a bad home life? Because I think
Well,
that's a valid thing that happens, but it doesn't mean child marriage is okay. But I'm
out
curious.
of the
I
out
was
of the
curious
frying
about
pan
that.
into the fire. Yeah, how does that make
Yeah,
sense? I mean,
yeah,
under no that's like saying, well, if you don't wanna live at home and it's so shitty, then just leave. Like, actually leaving is probably gonna be safer for them than getting married, in fact,
hmm,
because it's just state sanctioned statutory rape. That's all it is.
yeah.
So, oh, because
Interesting though.
this life is shitty, you're going to let your mother or your father sign you over to rather a sexual predator and you're going to be locked into that. It's just transferring to a predatory,
Yeah.
different owner.
Yeah, because
It's
there's no law around that or no protections around that. There's nothing
right.
around that.
Right. If
And
a
why can't somebody get married? I mean, to deflect to push off marriage and that kind of commitment, the older you are is better anyways. I mean, your brain
For
is
sure.
not even
For sure.
processing things.
well, the thing about it is, I mean, they're 35-year-olds, 50-year-olds, whatever, that maybe can get into a bad marriage, have poor judgment, or get duped, or
Of course.
steal, or be, have trauma for whatever, where something's not going to work out. The thing is that you at least, if you're an adult, 18, which is defined as 18 or over, you have
In some
legal
states.
and there,
Mhm.
yeah, I think there's a state where it's 19. I don't,
Mhm.
but on the whole, let's say 18 is the age of majority. That's when you have the rights of an adult, full rights of an adult. For then, you don't.
Mm,
So you can't go to a domestic violence shelter.
that's
You
right.
can't access the help that you need on your own. You can, um if you run away from home, you can be arrested. You can be taken in as a juvenile and taken back to your parents, or put in juvenile hall, or whatever that state is, as a runaway. So, I mean, so there needs to be something separate. Usually it's child protective services,
Yeah.
but to deal with a situation like that. And then there's folks that want to say, well, what about emancipation? Well, if you give them, let them be emancipated. In some states, marriage kind of automatically you're considered emancipated. Okay, well, now you're emancipated, so you have legal rights. So how about we just make that a loophole? What if you're emancipated? Well, they fail to realize that doesn't actually give you full rights. It
Mm,
absolves your parents of responsibility. They no longer are responsible for your health needs, for your financial welfare, or any kind of welfare. They have zero legal obligation to you. But okay, yeah, you probably can now, if you prove it or whatever, you can probably seek medical care for yourself, and maybe your child if you have one, depending again on the state. You might be able to get some services. When I was under 18 in Texas and trying to get a driver's license, Like, here's my marriage certificate. I'm emancipated. Okay, we can give you a you can, well, you still have to wait till you're 16. You can't get one at 15. You still have to wait till 16. There was no but I'm like, but I have a baby and I have a stepson that needs to go to school. Well, we don't care. You still have to be 16. The law says 16. It doesn't matter whether you're emancipated or not. Okay,
Well,
at
so you don't
16,
have full rights.
you
No.
don't have full rights. Then I go to try to get a driver's license at 16. Well, you need to have driver's ed. You can't just come in here and take. I'm like, well, I've been practicing. Like, "Well, you have to have a driver's ed, certified driver's ed course. Well, you probably, where would I get that? Well, through school. Well, I can't go to school and I'm not allowed to enroll myself in school. So how am I going to do that? I find an independent one. I can pay them. I was like, I forget how much for like a private driving school to get the driver's ed. Oh, you have to be we need you have to be 18 or we need your parents' signature. But I'm
Exactly.
emancipated. Oh, that's our rules. We need your parents' signature. I'm like, but I'm married. Well, can your husband sign for you? I'm like,
Yeah. So it's not true emancipation. You're not getting
Yeah.
no.
your legal
Yeah. It sounds
rights.
like you're just backed into a corner left and right in this situation. And it gives kids a false sense of freedom, which they don't really,
Right. It is a very false sense of
yeah.
freedom. It's not freedom at all. And as the director of policy or advocacy at Unchained, Becca would say over and over again on our day in DC, it's not that magically a child grows up overnight and wakes up as an adult when they're 18, but magically when they wake up as an adult at 18, they have a significant amount of new rights that they did not have the day before. They
Mhm.
have suddenly a whole bunch of autonomy.
Yeah.
And you can't get that from emancipation. You certainly don't have that in marriage. And so it's not really protecting a child to marry them off.
Mhm.
They're shouldn't be married at that age just as a basic human rights, like, oh my God, grow up first, have your youth, have your childhood, get your education, get some grounding under you before you sign a lifelong contract, which of course I think is insane.
Yeah.
um, I think it should be like a year to year option to renew, like a lease.
I think that's
Okay.
probably what a lot of people do naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. When I just had my 10-year anniversary a year or two ago, and I was like, are we up for renewal? Are we going to do this? Are we going to keep doing this? Do we have to sign something? Are we sure we're still into this?
Yeah.
Obviously joking, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this lifelong commitment also very grounded in the patriarchy,
Yes.
which is ridiculous. Marriage, if you find somebody that you think is an amazing partner and you want to partner with them, the thing is that marriage is recognized by the IRS and the government and offers a whole bunch of legal protections. The person that is allowed to speak for you in the hospital, the person that is going to inherit whatever it is that you jointly own because you own it as a married couple. There are a lot of protections being married because back in the day, I used to fight for gay marriage, or as we call it, marriage. But now I'm here on the other side fighting against child marriage. So I get the value. I don't see the value in marriage in and of itself. I see the value in the protections that it offers, in the same way that when you buy a house, your deed is recorded in the public records so that nobody can come and say, hey, you stole my house. And you're like, no, 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 it's down at the courthouse. Go look. I bought this. The deed was transferred to me and recorded in public records. It's the exact same thing. I'm married and the legal documents exist. It's the same thing. It's just a legal protection. But there are some other ways around it. Like back in the gay marriage fighting days, you can build around that. You can take possession of a property jointly in certain ways to protect each other. You can write wills, you can write medical directives. There are a lot of ways that you can protect to make sure that, but there's so many other legal protections that just that basic marriage certificate offers, but none of them are offered to children in the same way that Brigitte is saying that, she couldn't get a driver's license. She
It's
couldn't go to a home.
emancipated children.
That was with
Emancipated.
emancipation.
Yeah.
Emancipation doesn't mean that the owner of this driving company can waive their practices. It doesn't mean that a lawyer who's like, no, I'm sorry, you can't sign a lease because you're not 18. They may not be willing to engage with a child that has been abandoned by their family and is now trying to leave their new owner. Like, you really need to wrap your head around the fact that it is not a husband, it is not a partnership, it is not a balanced relationship. It is an ownership, not different than slavery.
The thing too that is, when it's pressed into a situation where you have limited options and you're trying to get out of a situation, a young person is already without protection, vulnerable to exploitation. But you get a young person, young girl who's like me, who is young, limited options, has children, is trying to figure out how to survive. Then you become even more of a target and more likely to become a victim of being exploited. I mean, even like you look at that as like, well, I've got to feed my children. I've got to get out of this. And, you don't have the life experience. And so it's got knock-on effects that, I mean, they keep going, but those are the things in advocacy, is trying to explain these things to lawmakers that they don't they don't think of, because they don't know, they haven't lived it. And so a lot of it is simply is educating. There's going to be some people that have some fixed idea and they're not going to change their mind, but there's many who maybe had an idea, but of they didn't understand there was a problem. But when you explain it, here's what I lived, here's the reality of this thing, it's like, oh my gosh, really?
It must have been so shocking for so many people, because to your point, all three of us have had an experience with this. I was not married. I did have the freedom to say, fuck off, I'm not doing this. But I would imagine when I talk about it, just since, us three talking about this so much, most people in America don't know that there were actually laws that allowed childhood marriage. They're aghast when they hear that this is something new. Like, oh, like you're trying to defeat something that has been around. They had no idea. So I find that particularly interesting. And so it doesn't surprise me that lawmakers also wouldn't know, because unless, to your point, you've been affected by it, you wouldn't know to even fight for this thing.
Well, what the common response I hear is like, well, where? And you tell them like, well, the minimum is 18. I'm like, so the issue, and the one that many lawmakers want to try to either create new ones or keep, are loopholes. The loopholes and the exceptions are the problem. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. So if you look at, say, take Oklahoma for an example, because that just that it's just been a week ago today since that passed. And I was heavily, that's been all consumed with that for the last like 4 months. If you go look, what's the minimum age for marriage, it'll say 18. Be 18 years old and blah blah blah. But here, and then that's the exception. If between 16 and 18, a parent can sign with parental permission, or in pregnancy, or under 16, any age, so there was no minimum age. This is one of the things that was worded, to settle a paternity suit. Get that, that's the wording. or if there's a pregnancy, to avoid having an illegitimate child.
Wow.
So these are the exceptions. So it's the exceptions that are the problem. And people don't understand. They think, oh, my aunt Hilda was married when she was 15 or 16, and they her and uncle so and so, they've been married for 60 years and it's been wonderful. Well, times have changed, and
Mhm.
how many people that we don't even hear about, we may not hear their stories of how it really went down. The
Yeah.
problem is the parental coercion, the being made to, oh, the girl's pregnant, we have to marry them off. Oh, they're having sex, we have to marry them off. I'm sick of paying child support for this crazy girl. She's out all the time. I'm sick of her. I want her out of here. You're marrying him. I mean, whatever. I mean, there's bazillion scenarios. It's the parents that are doing it. They are the problem. Yes, not every single parent is like that, but a lot of them are. And I mean, we've heard examples before, like, I don't, maybe it was Veloz that used
I
DWI, or
love
the
I
driving.
love the drunk driving analysis. Yeah.
A-
Or
and that makes me think. I have a former relative who was, he was basically a functioning alcoholic. He put away a lot of alcohol and he would drive. Okay. So he seemed to, be able to function. I actually had a former coworker like that. Could have, I mean, immense amount of alcohol on board, drive, do, function, never seemed to have an accident. I guess, he can manage that. Well, so I mean, we have laws against drinking and driving. I mean, do we make an exception because, well, he handles it really well. He's
he's
really used to it. He knows
fine.
how to do it. So let's have an exception for people. We need to give him an
Let's
exception.
have an exception for people with high tolerance of alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, seriously? I mean, if young people, because,
I would like an exception for people to drink if they had a really bad day. Like, come on. This
right,
is absolutely unacceptable. We don't make any exceptions. And the other thing is, the example that I equate it to is like, it's not that the many times many people have driven drunk, didn't get into an accident and didn't die. That doesn't make the rule. That
right.
is the exception. And
Mhm.
that is why it is illegal, because the most of the time, and it has a high potential for killing someone.
Right.
And so we make the law for the most amount of safety that we can. And that's what we're trying to do. And allowing these exceptions and these loopholes are literally creating space for the flaw, the error, the damage that is caused to a child. Because of course, there's always going to be exceptions. And there isn't an acceptable reason. Pregnancy, what? I don't even understand that anymore. I just don't understand it. Like,
It's a very
I
well, that was kind of a religious thing, I
Yeah.
think, in the past.
There we
And so
go.
now that we're moving away from religion, which actually we aren't, which will be on another episode coming
Yeah.
up. But to say that, I agree with you. Marriage doesn't, what does that even mean when someone is a child and pregnant,
Yeah.
which is demented anyways, right? But then to say, oh, now we're going to marry you off, that doesn't ensure the woman's safety, the child's safety. It doesn't ensure protection or financial support. Like, it just kind of binds her now both to a baby and a man,
Right.
Leaving her trapped, and
leaving her completely trapped. Yeah.
if they,
And the
if-
consequences, the consequences, are the obvious ones. Obviously, she's now lost her childhood. She now has most likely had her education taken away. And then it usually, once she figures out how to get out, she's homeless, because the parents are the ones that got rid of this child in the first place. Rarely do the parents go, "Oh God, I'm so sorry that didn't work out. Of course, honey, come home." That doesn't happen. If they signed their child away, do you think they really want that kid back? So now this kid is homeless, as was I and Brigitte both. And, just trying to, she had 2 children under the age of 18. She had 2 children while she was still under the age of 18 and had to figure out how to leave and get herself back on her feet, which of course then opens you up to exploitation. Yeah, no matter who the NIPNA says, in some states, the husband is the presumed father of the baby, no matter who the biological father. Yes, if you're married and you get pregnant, whoever you marry. So that's to settle a paternity. So like I could get pregnant by Joe and marry John, and he's now the legal father, just by marriage. So this is the type of thing that the law protects in marriage, which I'm not even objecting to that. Like, I don't care. That's not, that's a good thing. That's fine. If you can get pregnant and whoever you're married to is the other parent legally. So that's fair. It's just that it's not a solution for a pregnant teenager child. Let's hope she's a teenager, for fuck's sake. But that's not a solution. Getting married, you could be separated from your husband and get pregnant by your boyfriend, and the husband is still considered the father, because
in some states,
your marriage supersedes, which, this is what I'm saying, marriage offers a lot of protections.
Yeah.
So in the gay marriage fight, we're like, no, we want real marriage. We don't want your placated, why don't you get a civil union? And I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you for the little morsel of rights that you're allowing me to have because you're too delicate. And we're like, no, we would like all of the protections offered under the law. And so,
let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask you both a question, because you're passionate about this advocacy work, and we've all had children. I mean, I was under 18. Brigitte, you were under 18. Velas, were you under 18 with your first one?
I was 18.
Yeah. So it's a controversial question, but we can talk about it another time. But it just keeps gnawing at me right now. Like, should it be okay for us to have children under 18?
No, it should not. Absolutely not. Our bodies are not ready for it. Oh, it's not controversial for me.
No, it's not controversial, but I mean in the greater, because then you go, well, what would the solution be? So in the case where you have a boy who's a man who's 18 and a girl who's 16 and she gets pregnant. Now they're not legally allowed to get married. So she isn't going to benefit from the legal protection or whatever it is from this 18-year-old whatever boy. And now she is, I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, there's so much, even allowing children to have children, that should be off the table. But then how would you control that or help that or protect that? It's not just throwing an 18-year-old boy in jail, because not every 18-year-old boy raped a 16-year-old girl. Like, that's not the scenario all the time. So the solution is not punishment. But, I'm thinking ahead, like, what are those, because technically when you're 16 and you have a kid, you need to operate like an adult. You need to have the rights and the freedoms and all the things that an adult has if you're on your own, of course. If your parents kick you out or they're not helping you or they're abusive and you have nowhere to go. I mean, it just seems like there's this rabbit hole of protections that needs to be really looked at. Well, I would imagine a lot of these child marriages, unlike you two, but a lot of, maybe some, I don't know the percentages, but is it because the girl got pregnant? I don't know. There's just so much.
But marriage is still not a solution to that. I mean, that's just compounding the trauma. Now you're just adding, oh, you're a mother. Oh, you're a wife too. Double whammy. But the answer to that and most questions in the history of time is the same. Education. I mean,
that's my belief.
It needs to be taught more. We need to talk about this in schools. We need to talk about this in society. We need to talk about, I mean, the irony of you asking that question is that teenage pregnancy is down. And that was just lamented by our current administration saying that teenage pregnancy is down in a bad way.
In a bad way.
That we're not having babies, and these young women need to be young women. I call them children because they should be having babies. And there was a statement made recently. It was appalling. But
I mean, I even think under the age of 22 is young to have a child, because when I think about my mother, she was 18. She wasn't, just because I mean, this is where the thing with the number 18 is so ridiculous too. 18 does not mean you're an adult, that you have the capacity to take care of a child. My mom was a kid living at home until she got pregnant with me, so it's like, even this whole arbitrary 18-year-old thing is so strange, because most people are not ready to even be, you don't know how to pay a bill yet. You don't know how to have a job, let alone like raise another human to be safe and to keep that person safe, because you're going to parties, you're doing all these crazy things. So that seems like the worst. 18 to 22 seems like the absolute worst time to have a kid.
I wouldn't recommend it, and I don't think that it should be encouraged. I think that we should try. I mean, we as you said, we can't control, we can't force it, make people like absolutely no one, like it's illegal for you to have a child at 60. We can't do that, but we can encourage not, and make it do everything we can to get you hopefully much older, hopefully like in your, like say your 20s or something. I don't know, when your brain is a little more together and you kind of know what you want to do, and you're a little more mature, and hopefully in a stable relationship where someone can partner with you with a child. Not everybody wants a partner, but I mean, if you want to do that, but a kind of a more stable situation to have a baby, that would be the ideal. That to me, the 18 is simply because that is the legal age of adulthood. Like I said, there may be some exceptions in some places where it might be 17 or 19. But the thing is, having legal capacity. Whether you make a good decision or not is a separate story, but you do have full legal rights at that age. And that's what that's all about. Not that someone is just, oh, well, now you're mature enough to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that most 18-year-olds should be doing that, but
Nipana said, I volunteered with a program to mentor teen parents, and the program had 100% success rate of the parents not having another child while they were a teenager. That's amazing.
Education.
It's education, 100%.
It's like, hey guys, listen, this is how it works out. I'm a strong advocate for sex education in the schools, because I don't trust parents to be telling their children what's going on out there in the world. And I think it is critical. I think they need to hear it. They need to know. When my daughter was in high school, they did, I don't know if they still do, like the DARE program, where they prep the car and they put the car upside down. And my daughter was in the, they do this acting thing, and one of the kids gets all mangled up and blood all over them, and they're the dead kid. And my daughter was like, can you be the dead kid's mom? And I'm like, Jesus fuck. And so the school called, like, it's all being recorded, and they called and they're like, your daughter was in an accident, there was drinking involved, blah blah blah. And I mean, but it is in order to make an impact on these kids. Like, this is really what happens. It's not the fun part where you get home and everybody's luckily just safe by accident. But in fact, the other side isn't so glorious. Your little party where you were all drinking underage or whatever, like they're trying to impact them with really strong visuals. We need these impactful things. I was talking to somebody earlier working on my book, and she said that she will have some secondary PTSD from doing this work, and it devastated me. But that's what this work is about. I'm so sorry that the information is damaging. I'm so sorry that the information is painful. But it has to get out there, and that's what she said. I was like, I hate that for you. I hate that for us. But she's like, we have to do this. We have to do this. And so agreeing that this is, this is not it would be wonderful if we could just say like, hey, let's not let children be married. It's not healthy. It's not good. They're not developed enough. They can't make adult decisions. And it would be wonderful if we could just be like, let's not. But
it's
I'm sure
that you have to convince people to agree to not have child marriage. I find that really disturbing. It's like, how many people want to protect this and would have voted for it or kept it from changing?
36 to be exact in Oklahoma, if you're wondering.
I'm so curious what in the heck they were thinking.
36.
Like those, I want to invite one of those folks on to talk with us and to say, like, what are you thinking? Like, I really want to know, like, what is their reason?
Oh, we got one for you. That'll be entertaining as all get out.
No, I will not give him a platform.
Tell me.
I'm kidding.
My God.
And no, I don't want to give them a platform, but I am really curious. I don't see, to me, it is so illogical as a mother, as a woman, as someone who was able to say no at 11 years old. I'm not doing this. But what adult, I just cannot, it's not even like repulsive. It's like beyond something. I don't know what the word for is it, but it just doesn't make any logical sense why you would want a child to be married, because you're basically saying, I'm agreeing to let this child be raped over and over and over and call it marriage. Like that to me is it's so disgusting.
Well, this particular Neanderthal that we're talking about took to social media in front of I don't know, what was some sort of a chain steakhouse or something, and stepped outside and he was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of flack for child. I mean, he can't string a sentence together in English. He's literally an ignorant piece of shit. But he was like, I'm not going to allow that. We don't need that. And anyway, he got a lot of flack
he
for
was
that.
saying he was for child marriage.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
If she's 16 and she's pregnant and
she ought to be able to get married.
And her parents want to sign permission and it's okay with them, the government has no business in interfering in what the parents want to do.
The government has no business interfering, but yet he probably voted for a lot of the things that allowed government interference.
Sure,
but not to actually protect,
like like women to make choices over their own body.
So exactly.
We'll take that off of you. Let me decide what happens to your body. Yeah. But when it comes to marriage, let the parents decide that they don't like that 16-year-old anymore. Get the fuck out. Or 13 in my case. Or 14 in your case, or 11 in your case. Like, oh, one day your parents don't like you anymore. It's like, let's find you a husband.
Oh, and that's literally what happened with me. I mean, they told me I was uncontrollable and we wanted to literally control her. Like, we need to control her. She's getting kicked out of school and causing problems. So marriage was the solution. Like, that's probably why I can't handle like the long-term thing, because I'm just like, I bump into those walls of feeling controlled in a marriage and I'm like, I'm out. There's no way.
Yeah. I think the most beautiful thing in my life was whenever I realized that I was in control of my life. Yeah. I mean, not all of it. The government still controls my body, of course, but understanding that I was allowed to make decisions for myself. I was allowed to say, yeah, I do want to do that, or I don't want to do that, or whatever. And have somebody stand beside me going, cool. Yeah. I support you. You do that for yourself, like just being able to have that sense of autonomy and agency was one of the most freeing things, because it was a lot of decades of my youth before I woke up one day and was like, oh my God, I'm in charge of my own life.
I can do whatever I want. Okay. So where are we at now? Virginia has has no child marriage laws. Oklahoma
Right.
now has no child marriage laws.
We have 17 states that have now banned child marriage
Yeah.
from 2018, starting in 2018 in Delaware. We're now at 17 states.
And no
And
loopholes that would even allow
with no
that.
loopholes. That's the point. It's
That's
the
the
key
point.
thing. Because, like, if you Google what's child age in my state, it might say 18, and you might be like, oh, cool. It's not 18. It
Yeah.
says 18, and then it's like, but with all of these exceptions, or one, and it usually involves pregnancy, which still blows my mind. I'm like, why are you going to double burden that child?
Yeah.
And true, Julie says also for deadbeat dads to get out of paying child support, because that was a story that I learned also from Unchained, where there was the case of the child who lived with the mom primarily, who had custody and stayed with dad over summer. And one summer, the dad was like, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of paying child support. I'm tired of all of this back and forth. I want to be done. And the best way to emancipate myself from fatherhood is to marry this child off. And that's exactly what he did. She was 16 years old. He married her off to a guy. Was it Utah, Bridget?
I don't remember. Was it DC? Ohio?
No,
I can't remember where it was.
It was not. It was one of the Western states. But and when the mother found out, because it only requires one parent, when the mother found out, she was, of course, devastated. She's like, no, I don't want to give up legal responsibility. I mean, that child lost insurance care, because parents are required to provide insurance for their children. And that is allowed up to 25, at least I think it was, if that
26.
hasn't been
Yeah.
27 now.
rescinded. But I feel like that's been on the chopping block. So I don't know.
It's still,
But
yeah.
it's still so that child at 16 just lost 10 years of health insurance. If that marriage doesn't last, now she's on her own, homeless, no insurance. You can't unring this bell. The mother went.
So the mother she couldn't undo it.
No, she tried. And the court said, we can't unring the bell. It's done.
I'm going to go to something that's not on a legal topic, but it's just basic decency and humanity. And on the one hand, you could say it is humanity. These humans are wanting children to marry adults. So it's not just even as simple as that. But to me, it just seems so unbearably unethical, some of this, where it makes full sense to me to not marry off a child, to not steal your daughter and marry off to her some man because you don't want to take care of her. It just makes me wonder, was this guy Mormon? Like what religion or what,
I don't know,
set of values did he have that allowed him to do that, or gave him the thought? Or even like legally, wouldn't that be something that both parents would have to sign off on? I don't know. There's so many questions.
It depends on the state, because they have unique laws. So there's some that just require one parent, and that they don't have to even notify the other one. Some states may.
Well, I guess in some cases that's okay in case there's a violent parent. So,
but to just touch back on the religious thing real quick, in the advocacy work in DC, one of the things that Becca or somebody had mentioned multiple times, there are no major religions that have stood up and said, no, we are in support of child marriage because of our doctrine. None of the major religions in the world have supported child marriage ever.
Really?
Except for Prabhupada, of course, who totally advocated for it.
Well,
So
there's the Taliban, but.
Well, I was going to say, and then so much in India.
That depends on what part of the doctrine you're going to.
Right. So, but yeah, the religion itself, if you read the books, I don't think there's anything that says child shall be married by. Right.
If you go into religious extremism, they're going to be those organizations. So when you say Mormon or Islam extremism, sure, there's going to be groups that still want that practice. But when I say major religions, I mean like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism. They do not
Right.
support. The mainstream, the extremists, that's what we were raised with. We were raised with the
in
extremists.
Yeah.
The offshoot cults, sure, they're all about sexual predators and child abuse. So, I mean, that's just
that kind of control behavior. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what's next, ladies?
Brigitte and I have been talking. We really want to, we're actually right in the process of discussing whether we're going to attack North Carolina or Maryland.
Okay.
Maryland still allows marriage under 18.
Wow. What are the loopholes, or what's?
A few years ago, they tried to bring close the loopholes, bring the age up to 18 minimum without exception, and they weren't able to do it because there were some old cronies in that insisted. And
are they gone?
And they're on their way out, or they're gone. So some of the organizations that we work with were saying that we could probably look at it in 2028. But to be honest, and I don't want this hour to go by without me really just, I know you're going to hate this, Brigitte, but I'm really sorry, but you are my fucking hero. And you inspire me every day, and I believe in you beyond measure. And I think that you can do this.
Well, it's not just me, it's us working.
I know it's
all
not
of us
just
together.
I know, but when I ask the organizations, like, when is Maryland coming? They're like, well, we're working on it. And I'm like, what's stopping us? We can do this. So that's what we're talking about. And Brigitte has a knack for researching all of the players and learning about them so that she can better communicate with them. And it's really impressive, the work that she has detailed to me in the process. And I'm just like, I am so grateful that you brought me into this space. And I can't shout out enough how in awe of you I am for this work and how you do it.
I think we all have our own ways of contributing and doing things, and it doesn't mean one's better than the other, or I'm nothing special or unique. And
okay,
you have been with me. I'm just gonna say real quick, when I started this carry on, when I was like, I think I'm going to take up fighting for Oklahoma. And I wasn't the only one. There were advocacy groups, there were other people, there were people. I please made me make it clear, it wasn't like just me or something. But I threw my whole everything into that. But who was alongside me? You have listened to me every day going on Oklahoma this, Oklahoma that. So you've been there right along too.
We're going to do a fun little exercise. I'm going to say something and then I'm going to tell you what to say back. How about that? I thank you. And I think you're an amazing human being and you are a superhero. Okay, now you say thank you.
It's weird. Thank you.
That's different than what I said. It's weird and thank you don't sound the same.
Anyway, let's not make this about me.
No, both of you are amazing at what you're doing. Yeah.
Listen, anybody can, well, we're all in different places, okay? As far as advocacy, if somebody wants to advocate, it's an idea, and there's so many different levels of it. It's whether it's you want to get out and you're like, yeah, I want to tell my story, or I feel passionate about this thing and I want to be a part of making a change, and you want to do that. Anyone can. You can do that. You can start looking it up. Who's working on this? You can look for an advocacy group, service organizations, or someone who's maybe already in it. If there's nobody in it, write to your legislator. Look up. You can go online. Who are my who's my representative, who's my senator, who's my legislator, write to them. If there's nothing in existence, how speak to them. How might I get this created? And if you're not ready to go there, that's okay too. If it's supporting someone else, or if it's just experimenting with small things, just even sharing the word. I've had people say to me, well, how can I help? I don't really know what to do regarding child marriage specifically. I'm like, if nothing else, educating, telling people, because people don't understand it. Spread the word, tell someone. If that's all you do, that's amazing. So we can all advocate in our own ways, and sometimes it's big and it's flashy, or sometimes it's ugly, sometimes it's quiet and nobody knows, but we can all anyone can do it if you want to. And if you don't if you're not there yet, that's okay too. But if you want to, it doesn't take you don't have to have a special skill, or be just be you. And if you have your experience, that's what matters. You have the lived experience, whether it's being married as a child, being abused, being having a good experience. This incredible thing happened, it worked like this, and we need more of that. Well, I don't know, whatever the thing is that you feel passionate about, you have an experience with it, you have that story to tell. No one can take that from you. That's yours. And however you tell it is yours and your unique thing that you're offering. And that's what people need to hear. And that's what makes a difference.
I think a lot of people get so overwhelmed with world issues that they don't do anything. And so you're both kind of an example of what one small action led to another, that led to another, that led to you actually participating in and helping change something that seemed pretty overwhelming, that seemed kind of maybe unchangeable. From the outside perspective, but it was one small thing. You drove to Virginia, Richmond, and then you did the next thing and the next thing. So maybe people can just take away the idea that it doesn't take, we look at your accomplishments now and say, wow, you guys changed a whole lot of things. But what you really did was you showed up in Virginia that first day.
One bite at a time, really. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
But, and you just stay connected to that passion and that mission. And you both are examples of what that looks like. So anybody who's looking at getting into advocacy, don't think about, I'm going to go change the world, which is fine. But what can you do right here, right now? Who can you call? Whatever that tiny little step is.
And more often than not, there will already be an organization out there, and you can just, number one, learn from that organization. You can grab on and be part of that organization. Like, we are members of the National Coalition to End Child Marriage in the United States. We are advocates for Unchained. We are associated with Tahirih Justice Center. There have been several articles, by the way, published on Brigitte's work with Oklahoma. And in the beginning, Tahirih was calling the Virginia bill passing Brigitte's law. So she's undervaluing. Stop it. Don't say it. And but I do want to say, over the past, let's say 5 years, we've flown out to California to try and get Ash Kalra to let the bill be heard. Just let it be heard. He did not want it out there. And that
in California,
are
there child law?
No minimum age,
no minimum age in California.
No minimum. Okay, so let's just, anybody, because I'm in California and most of the folks I work with are. So just know that California does not have a minimum age for marriage, which means they allow childhood marriage.
Correct. So we tried to get that bill heard, and what we did was called what Unchained at Last calls a chain-in. And it's quite a spectacle, and it was a little uncomfortable for us, but basically everybody wears a wedding dress. I just wore white pants and a white shirt, but I can't stomach wearing a wedding dress. But and we all marched from our hotel, like how many, maybe 30, 40 of us, maybe more, marched from the hotel to this representative's office and protested. And we had chains on our hands, some of us, and we had duct tape over our mouths, some of us. And we just wanted him to let the bill be heard. And apparently there was a conflict with some of his backers. And so he did not.
So
We
is he
also,
Democrat or Republican?
I think so. Yeah, he's a Democrat. This is not a partisan issue.
In California, yeah, it's unique. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's interesting that it's not a partisan issue. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should be a human issue. But when you have someone like Jennifer Newsom, who's the first partner of the United States who has daughters, why she wouldn't be behind this? And so I'm going to make an official call out to Jennifer Newsom.
Good,
and say, girl,
good.
what are you doing? Like, why aren't you backing this? Why aren't you guys heading this up as the parents, as the what do you call it? The first parents in California of daughters. I mean, she did. Have you guys seen Misrepresentation, the documentary that she backed? Yeah. So it's the way, like the influence the media and the fashion industry has on girls and women.
I have
it's
seen
fantastic. Yeah. I mean,
oh,
it's
is that the one you sent me the other day? Is that
Yes.
the one? I thought it was the American Peril.
Oh no, I sent you the Cult of American Peril, which is such
different.
a wackadoodle story. Yeah, this is different. I'll send you the link for Misrepresentation. But why isn't Jennifer Newsom on this? Like, this is one of those things where it's like, these women in power, you cannot say she doesn't know this. Like, there's no possible way you could say she doesn't know this. And then if she did, it would not be, I mean, it would be forgiven, of course, but to say, okay, forgiven action, like, do something about this. Don't let some guy who has donors that are perverts that want girls to marry old men have a say on whether or not this is heard. This has nothing to do with that. So anybody that knows Jennifer Newsom, get us in front of her and get these two in front of her. And I don't know, we need to do something. I'm embarrassed to be in a state that allows that.
There's been survivor advocates that have shared incredible testimonies or stories it's been going on for years, trying to convince California. I mean, poured their hearts out, and people who have really, this has been on the long ongoing thing. And California it's interesting. It's groups that you would normally associate with
progress.
Yeah.
Like Planned
Parenthood of California, ACLU, who have been against the bill. They're the ones in California, and I believe now also in Colorado, who are against this bill, who were supporting child marriage. And
they're framing it as taking away people's rights.
Yes. And they can't use reproductive health because it's enshrined in the Constitution of California. So that's a whole separate issue. So they really can't use that argument. So yeah. And if you have anyone in Ohio, that's at I haven't checked an update. That's at a critical point where some people need to reach out to the legislators there ASAP to get them to hear and work on that one.
And that's something that we owe Ohio. And that's something, so over the past, I think it's been 2 months at this point, we've had bills heard in Ohio, Colorado, Oklahoma, and one other one, Kentucky.
And you had Donna Simmons on.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
You heard that. That just crushed me for her, and of course for the girls and the kids of Kentucky. But she fought that, and at the end, something that does happen that it's difficult to take in this is that when you have a person or group of people who are intentionally blocking a bill, gatekeeping, or stalling, or actively working so that it doesn't get heard, or it doesn't get a chance, it hurts. That's a whole different thing.
So when you were participating in this, was the LC or ACLU or Planned Parenthood anywhere else in the country against this bill, or only?
They're all separate. They're all separate. So the parent organization is pro banning child marriage, but each individual chapter can do their own thing.
So like in California, it's a Planned Parenthood of California, and I can't speak specifically, but the ACLU group or whatever is in California. And in Colorado, it would be it's probably the same for there, the Colorado groups. I'm not positive, but so just want to make it clear, it's not I'm not saying all of Planned
Yeah.
Parenthood. I'm not
Okay.
saying that about
Okay.
all the head organization, but
It's not
Planned
So I would
Parenthood
be
in
curious
California.
then. Yeah. So then in California, it would make me wonder, is it immigrant communities that they're trying to, like, what pieces? Because I'm trying to understand their logic. A lot of these are not run by, people who are uneducated. So I really want to understand from a logical perspective why they would say that and who they think they're protecting. Because if it was immigrant communities, or is it, like, I don't know, like, it makes me really curious.
They're just saying this limits right. Anything that limits someone's rights, they're not going to support.
But they have a right to safety and protection. They
That's
have a
the
right to
argument.
autonomy,
My issue is
sovereignty, right? Like, that doesn't make it
children,
right to what? Get raped?
children
Right.
are seen as possessions. The only people that have rights in this scenario are the parents, and that's whose rights they're trying not to take away. The right of the parent to give their child away. Who's caring about these children? Certainly
Well,
not the government.
But I
Well,
mean, we
some
give a
of them
right
are trying
to
to give the children the right to
yeah, I
decide
mean,
too.
a fetus has a right to life now that we have all this stuff, out there. And a 16-year-old girl does not have the right to not be married if her parents want her to be married. That's what I think is super fucked up.
Yeah.
Well,
But
this
even
is
if she
because
did want it, like,
we don't regard women and children in this patriarchal society as whole humans. We
yeah,
don't
well,
regard
clearly
them
not.
as whole humans.
Yeah.
So somehow a child before it's born is a whole human. Once it's born, they're
Nothing.
on their own until they're
Yeah.
18 without exception.
Yeah,
And
no, I have a whole issue with that too. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but well, you guys have offered some really enlightening information. I think that, again, I know we've talked about it before, but I'm learning something new from each of you every time we talk about this. So I think California needs to step up.
Yeah, California does need to step up. It shocks
Wow.
me every time I think about it because
Yeah.
I think better of California than that.
I do. I would expect the state to be an example for the right kind of rights.
Yeah. So when you're Googling, does your state have child marriage? Make sure you look at the exceptions, and it has to say 18 without exception in order for you to say it's 18, because otherwise it isn't. I know we have dragged on. Do you have any final words for us, Brigitte?
No, I think just kind of what we said, and
Keep fighting the good fight.
keep fighting whatever little bit you can.
So the next state is, you said, Maryland or
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
We're not sure. She's going to start researching and tell me what my
there's yeah, because there's like most legislative sessions tend to be like the beginning of the year, but different states run them differently. And there was a bill that was supposed to be in North Carolina, but it's not, or is, or I don't know the status of that because I got distracted elsewhere. So research on that, but I'm interested in where things stand with that. And then in Maryland, there currently, as far as I know, there is nothing pending. So Velas and I talked about what it would look like to get something in motion there. And
we have Nipana is asking about Hawaii.
Yeah.
So Hawaii has legislation that has been ongoing. There's been a bill there that it's kind of a unique thing on its own. Nippon would probably be aware of this. In Hawaii, it's kind of because of the the general attitude with, like, you have the mainlanders, the government, and then we have Hawaii and the native people there, and who is coming to my house.
That always happens, isn't it?
There's they have like a very and there's like the cultural stuff. So apparently it's like a very unique situation. And when I've asked about it, I've pretty much been told that they kind of like to work their own thing.
Independently. Yeah.
But have I
They're
looked into
they're an
that? No, I
island.
would support them. I know that Zonta of Hawaii, Zonta Club is active there. I don't know who else is. I was just in Hawaii and I was actually trying to look into this. I thought, well, I'm here. I'd love to like meet some fellow survivors or advocates. And even if, you don't want me to do anything, I'm say, hey, I'm here. I support you. Thank you for what you're doing, but I couldn't really get any information on it.
Yeah.
So
And as
that's
far as Washington State, Nipana, Tahirih Justice Center was actively involved in getting that state to 18 without exception. So we had mentioned them earlier.
and looking at Texas. Texas has a legislative session. They don't have it every year, and I believe it's next year that they do 27, and hopefully, don't know. Maybe there'll be something there, and that's the state where my marriage occurred. So, if and when that happens,
We'll be flying down there and testifying
yeah,
in person.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
these are the other things when we work with several organizations and they'll reach out and be like, hey, we need advocacy. Can anybody who is interested please submit testimony? You can do written testimony, you can do oral testimony, you can show up and testify in person, you can do video like on a Zoom. So there's a lot of different options, and these organizations are like, okay, we're at the finish line, we need to get over the push, or we need, who would like to help? And there are hundreds of survivors in our groups who have experienced this with varying religious backgrounds or circumstances. And we have a friend who was married to her husband at 16. They were both 16 and they're still married. And she also fights alongside us. She's she's amazing. And that doesn't mean she can't see that it's wrong. She knows it's wrong. She gets it. She's like, yeah, I'm still married. We're still best friends. It's fine. It's still wrong.
She tells the story, their experience, what they went through, which they survived it. They managed
but
to.
It was their parents that forced them to get married.
Did they really? Were they Haris too?
No.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yep.
Oh.
So, I mean, so what if you're still married and it worked out in this isolated situation? You can still see how most of the time it's bad. And,
and it doesn't work.
Most of the time it ends in divorce. So you're just promoting your own divorce rates if you want to support child marriage, like these states that are like, nah, we'll just keep it like this. Great. Then divorce rates are up, I mean, who's benefiting?
Girls are way too young or way too vulnerable at that age. I don't care what's going on in their life. I think and if you're really not vulnerable, you're probably not going to get married either at that young of an age. If you have education or things to look forward to, it's really the vulnerable girls that this is happening to. And I'm sure you guys have 1,000 statistics and numbers on it, but I would be interested to know what the domestic violence percentage is for girls married under 18. How many of them end in divorce? Like some of those numbers to just educate people to say, yeah, we know it's bad, but show me some numbers, because we're kind of conditioned to validate on numbers.
Unchained at Last has a vast amount of statistics and research and information on that. You can go to unchainedatlast.com, I believe it's .com, and they're, or what?
Is it org or com? It's Unchained at Last, though.
Okay, we'll find it. Who was the organization? This is different than what our other friend was doing. He was working with an organization to end child marriage worldwide, right? Shrisham?
Is he not working with them anymore?
I
Shrisham,
don't
yeah.
think so.
No.
No, but I thought that was interesting. I'd love to talk with him on his perspective. He was working on the donor side, on the fundraising side. But I think getting a guy's perspective on this, what made him want to support this. I mean, we know him, so we know why, kind of, but still, it would be interesting to also hear what's going on in the world, not just here in the US around
Well,
this.
there's
Right.
different things going on. That'd be for a different time. Let's say like in India, there's because I've been speaking with a group. They're they're international, but they're also in
Okay.
DC. But they're doing a lot of work in India, and I think I want to say the wrong thing. It was Nepal. India, interestingly, which is the philosophy that our cult was based in their stuff. But we here in India, there's a lot of child marriage. You have the caste system, you have the dowry. I mean, it's a whole complicated thing. India outlawed child marriage. It is actually against the law. It's
When?
years ago. You'd have to double check. I think it's 18 for girls and 21 for boys. It's older for boys, but they have a marriage age law. The
However,
in India that's unique is that in a lot of these groups, they are not following the law, and you have officiants who are ignoring the law. Now, I kind of question, well, if it's against the law, how does that even become like a marriage? But I mean,
But it's so,
but
yeah,
it's a
that's a good
unique thing
point.
that's happening there. But I mean, their way of having to attack this is going into these little villages and trying to educate families and trying to educate at such a grassroots level to try to change the thinking
Yeah.
of
Well,
these
it's so
families.
buried in culture, in their stories, and this is one of the reasons why Vilas and I will be doing an episode or two on how mythology plays a role in propaganda, almost like really these stories that are beloved stories that we wrap our childhoods around. We're being taught from an early age that being married, number one, is the way to go. And it's embedded in culture and stories, especially in a place as old as India, as knee deep in, I guess, their history as they are. I mean, we're a new country. We don't have hardly any of our own systems, and we're trying to set it up right still. I mean, 400 or 500 years in. How old are we now in the US?
250.
50.
That's it. Oh, we're worse off. We're such babies, but we are trying to set up a new system. But for somewhere like India that is just so solid in their culture, I think that's just going to take generations to change. But kudos to anybody, for everyone who's trying. I think it's really amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nipana, absolutely. Hari Krishna's worship kids weren't the gopis. 11, yeah. So that's part of our mythology conversation. I think we need to cut it for today. But that is wonderful. And Nipana, I mean, I know your mom knew all the stories. We'd be happy to have anybody who's really like understands the mythology and the religion and to be able to connect the dots join us, because that's where it starts. I think for all of us, my earliest memories are, one of them, I don't even know, it was like a gopi in the window who had been kidnapped, and she looked so beautiful, but she had resigned to just getting married to some dude and being kidnapped. I mean, it was just kind of gross.
It's called grooming.
It is, yeah. And you're the one that used that word. I mean, I guess I did think about it too, but yeah, it's hardcore grooming. So anyways.
I put the link in the chat.
Thank you.
For Nipana did too, but I put the shocking statistics
that's what we want
from Unchained, and it's really, they do some good work on the statistics and the overall picture of where we are with child marriage. There's also another website, which is, I'll pop it into here as well. And it is the Coalition to End Child Marriage in the United States. And there are a list of organizations, sponsors, co-sponsors, co-conveners of all of the different statistics of where we are. I'm going to pop this in to the chat as well. And this is where we just lean in and like, hey, how can we participate? How can we support? How can we add our names to the list? And we are on there. You can find us on there. Organize allies, and then advocates, survivor allies. So there are many of us out there, and we are fighting. Thank you for listening to us today. We really appreciate everybody that showed up and listened to us live, and share this with people who think it could help in any way.
And if you want to jump on board, reach out to us. And Brigitte, I don't know if you want to, we can kind of put people in touch with you. If
Absolutely.
that's all right.
There were people who were there for me when I was starting out in this, that I valued their, helping hold me up and being like, it's okay, or that had been there or could guide me or just support. It was everything, and still is. So if I can do that for someone else, I'm honored. So
yeah, okay. And the invitation is also, thank you for that. And the invitation is also for someone who's in a child marriage. If you are stuck, if you're out there and you feel alone and don't know what to do, contact us. Please reach out. Yeah. Awesome. Right. Thank you both so much. We'll see you all next week. Next week, my friend and colleague Deanna Nunez will be joining us. She has a very unique perspective on forgiveness and letting go. Not the mamsy-pamsy type. She is very, very practical in her approach to this. So I'm actually excited to hear the conversation and to just gain a new perspective on this. And Vilas and I have talked a lot about forgiveness. So would love to have you join us next week, next Wednesday at 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. Eastern time.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Peace and love.
Brigitte, thank you so much for being here. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Girls.